All right, viewers, top story this Tuesday evening. Amidst the steaming controversy over the hijab ban in Karnataka, Muslim vendors have been prohibited from operating stalls at temple fairs. All of this comes after right-wing activists forced the temple committees to exclude the Muslim community. While the Karnataka government has backed the ban, Congress says it will disrupt the communal harmony in the state. My colleague Nolan and Nagarjun filed this report.
The temple festival season has started in Karnataka. This time, the fairs that attract huge crowds and provides livelihoods to small traders are caught in a controversy. It started in Udupi, where the Hosa Marigudi temple banned Muslim traders from taking part in the fair. According to locals, right-wing activists forced the temple committee to exclude the Muslim community.
ಇವತ್ತು ನಡೆಯುತ್ತಿರುವಂತಹ ಜಾತ್ರಾ ಮಹೋತ್ಸವದಲ್ಲಿ ಹಿಂದೂಗಳು ಅಲ್ಲದವರಿಗೆ ಹಿಂದೂಯೇತರರಿಗೆ ವ್ಯಾಪಾರಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಅವಕಾಶ ನೀಡುವುದಿಲ್ಲ ಎಂಬುದನ್ನು ನಿರ್ಣಯವನ್ನು ತೆಗೆದುಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆ ನಿರ್ಣಯವನ್ನು ವಿಶ್ವ ಹಿಂದೂ ಪರಿಷತ್ ನಾವು ಸ್ವಾಗತವನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ. ಯಾವುದೇ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕೂ ಹಿಂದೂಯೇತರರಿಗೆ ತಮ್ಮ ದೇವಸ್ಥಾನದ ಸುತ್ತಮುತ್ತ ಇರುವಂಥ ಜಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ವ್ಯಾಪಾರಕ್ಕೆ ಅವಕಾಶ ಕೊಡಬಾರದು ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಸ್ಪಷ್ಟವಾಗಿ ಕಾನೂನು ಇದೆ.
Soon many temples across the state started banning non-Hindus from temple fairs. Among them is the Mahalingeshwara temple in Puttur Taluk, where the annual fair is scheduled to start on April 20th. The temple authorities have banned non-Hindus from bidding in auction for stalls.
ಮೇಲೆ ಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ಮುಂದಾಗ್ತಾರೆ ಅನ್ನೋಂಥದ್ದು ನೋಡಿ ನಾವು ಅಗತ್ಯ ಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಕೈಗೊಳ್ಳಲಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅವರ ಅಕಸ್ಮಾತ್ ಏನಾದರೂ ಇದು ವೈಲೇಷನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಇದು ನಮ್ಮ ನಿಯಮಗಳ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಥವಾ ನಮ್ಮ ಸೂಚನೆ ಅಲ್ಲ ಅಂತೇನಾದರೂ ನಮಗೆ ಕಂಪ್ಲೇಂಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ರೆ ಆದರೆ ನಂತರ ನಾವು ಅದನ್ನು ಲೀಗಲ್ ಒಪಿನಿಯನ್ ತೊಗೊಂಡು ಏನು ಕಾನೂನು ಕ್ರಮ ತಗೋಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಿರ್ಧರಿಸ್ತೀವಿ.
The Karnataka government has defended the ban while the opposition has questioned it.
ಹಿಜಾಬಿನ ತೀರ್ಪಿನ ನಂತರ ಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಆದೇಶದ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರತಿಭಟನೆ ನಡೆಯಿತು. ಮುಸ್ಲಿಂ ಅಂಗಡಿಗಳನ್ನ ಬಂದ್ ಮಾಡಿಸಿ ಇಡೀ ರಾಜ್ಯದಾದ್ಯಂತ ಪ್ರತಿಭಟನೆ ನಡೆಯಿತು. ಈ ರೀತಿ ನಮಗೆ ನ್ಯಾಯಾಲಯ ಅಗತ್ಯ ಇಲ್ಲ, ನಮ್ಗೆ ಸಂವಿಧಾನ ಅಗತ್ಯ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ನುವಂಥ ಮನೋವೃತ್ತಿ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಇದನ್ನು ನೋಡಿ ಒಂದಷ್ಟು ಬೇರೆ ಜನರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಆಕ್ರೋಶ ನಿರ್ಮಾಣ ಆಗಿದೆ.
It's unfortunate that the UP culture is coming to Karnataka. These fairs are not happening now. It's been traditionally happening for close to a century. And it's unfortunate that the narratives of the government are now flowing into public, and the discrimination is happening in education, in economic activities and society at large. I think we'll be taking this issue up.
The ruling BJP itself appears divided. Two lawmakers have questioned the state government's stand.
ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಅವಕಾಶ ಕೊಡುವುದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಎಲ್ಲೇ ಬೇಕಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಇರಲಿ, ನೀವು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಖರೀದಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಖರೀದಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ತಪ್ಪ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಂವಿಧಾನ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಅವಕಾಶ ಪೂರ ಅದ. ಹಿಂಗಾಗಿ
Now a group of activists have written to the governor and chief minister calling the ban on Muslim traders a shameful attempt to create hatred. They have urged the government to prevent the boycott. The BJP government under Basavaraj Bommai has taken a hard line on several issues in recent months. It has backed the hijab ban, first announced by a few colleges. It is planning to include the Bhagavad Gita in the school curriculum. The government is also set to tone down the glorification of Tipu Sultan and include his atrocities in the textbooks. This has made many wonder if BJP is planning to make strident Hindutva its calling card in the assembly elections next year. With Nolan Pinto and Nagarjun in Bengaluru, Bureau Report, India Today.
All right, viewers, now that the Karnataka government has defended the ban, but the government says, listen, we haven't implemented it or made it. What they are saying is that under the Hindu Religious Institutions and Charitable Endowments Department, this was a ban this was made in 2002. It's only been implemented now. But having said that, for 2 decades, this particular ban was not implemented. It's only been implemented now. The opposition, on the other hand, says that this directly violates the Constitution, Article 15(2) of the Indian Constitution. Let's take it now to our panelists this evening. Joining me is Arvind Narayan, President PUCL. Also, viewers, a lot of academics, a lot of other people from various walks of life have come together under the PUCL, written to the Chief Minister saying that this is only going to fan, communal fervor, which is rife, especially in the last couple of months following the hijab ban. Mr. Narayan is joining us. He's the President of PUCL. Also joining me in a short while will be Saeed Aslam, spokesperson JDS. We also have Giridhar Upadhyay, BJP spokesperson. Supriya Shrinate, Congress spokesperson, is also with me. With the permission of our panelists, I'd like to begin with our BJP spokesperson. Mr. Upadhyay, you might say, that you have nothing to do with it. It came up in 2002. At that point of time, the Congress was in power, and this ban was formulated by the Hindu Religious Institutions and Charitable Endowments Department. You're only implementing it. For 2 decades, this was dormant. It wasn't implemented, and today, one by one, temple after temple is coming up with these huge hoardings, missives that are going out saying, do not give stalls to Muslims, especially during the time of temple fairs.
Yes, because all these has started after whatever happened after the hijab court verdict has come, when some people do not want to follow the constitution or do not want to follow the court ruling, and they say for them religion is more important than the constitution or India, then obviously the society has reacted to it. It is not BJP which has reacted. It is the alert Hindu society which has reacted to this. So from 2002, this law was amended by the Congress government. It is a 1997 Endowment Act which was amended in 2002, and this clause number 12 was included, saying that any land or any building which is surrounding a temple should not be leased to non-Hindus. Maybe from then till now, obviously to maintain the harmony or something, they might have ignored it. But now what has happened? One section of the society is saying, for us religion is more important than your constitution or your rule which was given by...
Mr. Upadhyay, may I just come in? I want to ask you 2 very quick questions. Number one, the clause that you're talking about talks about a building and land. These are stalls during temple fairs. These are temporary passes. So that goes against with that clause you're talking about. Hear me out, sir. Hear my second question.
Yes,
you talk about... Sir, hear my second question. Sir, hear my second question. You talk about a certain section of Hindu people are asking for it. Forget about that. I want to ask you, what is the BJP saying? You're the lawmaker. I want to ask you, what is your line on it?
Our law is very clear. Any land around the temple, belonging to the temple, cannot be leased to the Hindus. Beyond this land,
to
if there is any controversy or if nobody is not given the land, then law will come to will take its own course, and those people who refuse beyond the temple land, if there is a controversy and if somebody is trying to create problem, government will take action against them.
So you are completely fine that temple after temple, Shimoga, Udupi, Dakshina Kannada district, the biggest temples, which earlier on, there used to be communal harmony. A lot of Muslims would also put up stalls. You are quite against that?
As per the law, we are completely fine about it.
Sir, the law for 2 decades was not... I want to ask you again.
That's all.
The law for 2 decades wasn't implemented.
I told you, what happened after the hijab verdict changed the situation. The whole society is saying what is going on in this country.
Sir, what is the whole society?
The land, and they say for them their book is important, their religion is important. Obviously, the society is reacting to it. What can BJP do for that?
Mr. Upadhyay, I want to ask you one very quick question. When you say the whole society, how are you taking ownership of the whole society? Sir, who's the whole society?
No, I am not taking the ownership of the whole society. You only said one after the other temple is doing this. Who is doing it? It is
so a society. The whole society wants it to happen. That's why it's been implemented.
They don't want it.
Sir, you said
the whole... owning the Hindu
Sir, you're saying the whole society wanted it. Therefore, this law, which wasn't implemented for 2 decades, is now implemented.
Hundreds of temples have not implemented. Who is implementing it? The people know. The temple authority, the devotees, they have the right.
All right, okay. So they have done it and you are completely supporting it. Supriya Shrinate, give me a minute. I ask for your patience just for about a minute.
Within the rule, we are going to support it. Within the
Okay,
rule.
now who's saying it's not within the rule? I'll tell you who's saying that. And, give me a minute, Supriya Shrinate. I know you wanted to come in for a rebuttal, but I just want to bring in for somebody who possibly knows the rules. Arvind Narayan is a president. He's a lawyer himself. He's from the PUCL. They've written to the chief minister and they've said this is out and out unconstitutional, violates Article 15(2) of the Indian Constitution. Mr. Narayan, why do you say that?
I'd make 2 points. Firstly, the entire question of the quotation of the rule itself is an instrumentalization of a particular rule to serve a completely wrong purpose. It's illegal and unconstitutional. By illegal, I mean, if you read that rule carefully, it prohibits the lease of property. As you rightly indicated, what you're talking about in this case are small traders who are going there who are asking for, at best, a license. They're not asking for a lease. Lease is about a permanent transfer of interest in property, and that is not what we're talking about. In fact, there was a report about traders from the UP coming down and saying that, can we rent a stall over here? What is that? That's a question of a license. It's not a lease. So what you get from this is the mentality of the BJP. What they're doing is instrumentalizing a particular rule to put in place an unconstitutional framework. That's one point. The second point is a very similar rule is there in the Andhra Pradesh law. The Andhra Pradesh High Court upheld it. Supreme Court stayed it. And they particularly noted that discrimination on grounds of religion is not allowed. That is the legal position. So the point which the BJP is quoting, that they're on very strong legal grounds, is completely false. It's very shaky legal grounds in within the language of the rule which they're so fond of quoting. But I think the larger point, which they really need to understand, is we expect the Chief Minister of the state to not throw a rule at us, but to answer the question of how are they fulfilling their oath to protect and defend the Constitution of India. That is the oath which the Chief Minister has taken, that is the oath which the Law Minister has taken, and today they come before the state and they tell us that they are implementing a rule. And in the implementation of the rule, they have no concern for what they're sworn to uphold, which is the Constitution of India. And in particular, the provision they're doing great dishonor to and great disservice to is Article 15 of the Constitution, which basically says shall not discriminate on grounds of religion, caste, etc. And if I permit me, I'll make one last point, is the judgment which comes to my mind is S.R. Bommai v. Union of India, which upholds the fact that secularism is the basic structure of the Indian Constitution, by which you mean that the state does not discriminate against citizens on grounds of religion. And it's a shame that the BJP under Mr. Bommai is violating the judgment through and through.
All right. Okay, what I'm going to do is, before I cut across to Supriya Shrinate, appreciate the patience, is quote what Article 15 of the Constitution actually says. A lot of us are not very well versed with it, so I'm just going to put it right out. It says, and I read out, the state shall not discriminate against any citizen on grounds only of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, or any of them. Well, what it violates here is number one, religion. That the state has discriminated against any citizens on the ground of religion. This is what these intellectuals are saying. But there's a loophole in that as well, because it's not the state which is saying they are implementing this particular law. They are saying this is coming in from the Hindu Religious Institutes and Charitable Endowments Department. It came in 2002. They haven't made it. They're only implementing law. So that's where the loophole comes in.
Can I respond to that? It's a very important point you're raising.
Quickly, sir, quickly.
Article 15(2), which says no citizen shall discriminate against any person on grounds of religion, caste, etc.
Right.
And particularly talks about the fact that access to shops and economic shops without discrimination. And that comes in because Dr. Ambedkar was very conscious of the fact that discrimination by citizens is a crucial dimension in this country.
Right.
And the BJP quoting the fact that the Hindu society is upset and etc. is basically their grouping, which is implementing these forms of discriminatory action. So they need to take responsibility for the fact that you are the state.
May I just go now? I want to go to Supriya Shrinate. Supriya Shrinate, the BJP saying we are reading the writing on the wall, which very well could also be that you are a year away from election, but the fact this is what the society wants is what was said in this show.
There are 2 points that I want to make and 2 broad points. There's one legal point that I think the lawyer on our panel of the PUCL has rightly made, Mr. Nayan has rightly made that point, that this is a wrong reading of 3112 of the Hindu Religious Institutional Charitable Endowments Act 2002, which talks about immovable long leases. This is temporary stalls. This also does not just violate Article 15, it also violates Article 21, which is the rights to life and livelihood. That's the legal argument, and I'm sure lawyers on this panel will be better versed. There is something called morals, and there is something called constitutional judgment and constitutional spirit that has to be upheld. What is the BJP doing here? First the hijab ban, now this, Kerala, banning some non-Hindu from being on stage. The courts in India saying you can smile and make a hate speech. Somebody who does a sulli deal and a bully buy gets bail because he's young and he has an impressionable mind. What about the thousands of students who are still lying in jail for crimes that they haven't committed? That said, I want to ask a very basic political social question. Where does this end? Because in Banaras, outside the Kashi Vishwanath, you've got people who are from another community catering to you. You climb Vaishno Devi, the people who are carrying you on their shoulders are Muslims. The Banarsi saris that you're putting on your deities are spun by Muslims. The Dashera, idol of goddess Durga, is made by Muslims. Ganesh Utsav is celebrated by both Hindus and Muslims. The idols are largely made by Muslims. Where do you stop this hatred? And at some stage, the society has to come up and say, this hatred has to stop. And I'm sorry to say the BJP government cannot look the other way, because this is not just a section of uninformed, ill-informed, hatred-spewing fringe that is doing this. This now has the endorsement of the government. And what is the government of Karnataka doing about this is the really big question. My head hangs in shame that in India, 75 years of our independence, we are violating the constitution left, right and center, and people can come here and say, because they did so on hijab, we are going to do this. Are you going to go with for an eye and a life for a life? Are you not going to uphold the constitution that you have sworn by? Because you are violating every aspect of the constitution, including the right to life and livelihood. And the larger point, Preeti, is can we divide our society beyond a point? Can this divisiveness not end? How far will we go? Today you're going to deny them a right to life and livelihood. Tomorrow you may. And what happens? I think the 2 legislators from the BJP who have revolted on the right grounds. We go to Muslim majority countries and work there. If they turn away people, are you willing to create jobs for them? We go to places like England and US and all over Europe, which are largely Christian dominated countries. What are you going to do? Are you going to create jobs for those people if they are turned away? I mean, we have to stop this divisiveness. This is madness. This is undemocratic, and this is wrong. And I'm not saying these 3 words. The 2 BJP legislators have used these 3 words. Wrong, madness and undemocratic. This madness has to stop. And I wish the courts take cognizance, because this in any case is on a weak wicket, a weak ground.
You know, I want to also bring in Syed Aslam. He is the spokesperson for the JDS. But, sir, would you hold your peace for just about a minute? Because it's a 3:1. I need to go back to Mr. Upadhyay, who is violently shaking his head from the Bharatiya Janata Party. Mr. Upadhyay, what Ms. Shrinate, she was quoting, was one of your own. A.H. Vishwanath, who's called this madness. And he himself has said that no God or religion preaches these kind of things. What is it that you're helping to implement? Is it because you have elections next year that this whole Hindutva plus push right now? Bhagavad Gita in schools, anti-conversion law, hijab, the list can go on. What's going on in Karnataka?
I just wanted to ask one question to the PUCL lawyer. He says this is whatever rule which has been put in that Endowment Act is wrong and against the constitution. Where was he 2 decades? 2002 this law came into effect.
But sir, it wasn't implemented.
When BJP government came,
sir, it wasn't implemented.
Suddenly he thought
sir, 1 second. It wasn't implemented.
These are stalls. Do you not understand the difference?
And the second thing is, nobody has banned hijab in Karnataka. Please don't mislead the people. Hijab is not banned in Karnataka.
Forget the hijab. Why are you denying people right to life and livelihood? You have an answer for that?
Okay, 1 second. If you're going to get into this, we're not going to hear anyone. Mr. Upadhyay, sir, may I please get Mr. Upadhyay back into this debate? Okay, Mr. Upadhyay, sir, hear the question. Here the question, you asked a question to the PUCL president. The fact is, this law wasn't implemented, it was dormant. You implemented it, therefore these questions are being raised right now.
No, when people asked for it, it was implemented. People implemented on their own. It was not done before that. The temple board consists of neutral people who wanted to implement it now. And government has to support it if it is as per the constitution and as per the act.
Okay. All right. May I just, I know Saeed Aslam, you're raising your hand very patiently.
All over the place.
Okay, Mr. Upadhyay, stay with me. Sir, can we all just like, let's just calm down a notch. Let's just calm down a notch. And let's cut across right now to Syed Islam from the JDS. Syed Islam, the people wanted. It's not that the BJP one fine morning woke up and said, let's implement it in Shimoga, Udupi, and then we will go to Dakshina Karnataka district. The temples there decided to do this. They said, okay, if you want it, let's go for it. That's what the BJP says.
There is a managing committee of the temple.
Well, I want to tell my friend from the BJP, I want to tell him that Karnataka is a land of peace. Karnataka is the land of brotherhood. Karnataka is known for love, peace, and serenity. So now, since decades, people have been living with peace, harmony, and brotherhood. Karnataka is known. Bangalore is known as the Silicon City. Bangalore is known as the IT hub of India. Bangalore is known as the land of opportunities. But of late, we have seen that Karnataka is getting known for different reasons. The infamous reasons. There are
so let's not heckle. No. Can we just get the JDS spokesperson? No point heckling. We can't hear you. Nobody can. Go ahead. Mr. Aslam, go ahead.
There is a sporadic increase. There is an upsurge in the incidents of communal hatred. We have seen the discriminatory approach of the government, the BJP government. Right? We have seen what happened in the hijab row. They were actually discriminating the girls, the Muslim girls. And the case was definitely, the High Court has given a verdict that, in the schools, the hijab is not allowed. That's inside the classes, the hijab is not allowed. But we have seen in schools, before the girls enter the school premises, they're asked to remove the hijab, which is absolutely discriminatory. Where is the dignity of women? You can't allow these students, you can't allow the kids to remove hijab on the...
This debate is not about hijab,
But having said...
Yes.
Absolutely.
No, having said that,
you should have given this ceremony.
Can I just get Mr. Aslam, please? Mr. Aslam, make your point.
Can I finish it? So we have huge respect for the court and it's accepted. And today, look at the discriminatory attitude of the government.
Sir, we've lost you. We are having a problem with your audio and video feed. We're going to try and connect that. Supriya Shrinate, before we go back to Mr. Upadhyay, the fact is, one can continue saying that the BJP is trying to communalize the atmosphere of Karnataka 1 year before election. The fact of the matter is also, Supriya Shrinate, these are temples which unilaterally have gone ahead and pushed for this.
So, Preeti, I have a counter question to ask of you and the BJP spokesperson. Sir, please don't speak in between. What is the role of the state government? The state government is endorsing it. They're not acting against it. They're defying the constitution. Are they supposed to be mute spectators? What are they doing? They're in governance. They're supposed to act on these things. What are you doing about it? There is a certain community that is being denied its livelihood. If you go to the courts, you'll be denied what you're doing. What is the government's responsibility? The government is using it all too well to further polarize. That's exactly what they're doing. But please don't take the Hindus for a ride either. The Hindus can see through your divisive agenda. The Hindus can see through precious little that you're doing for employment, for jobs, and now you're trying to do this. I have only one question to ask you. All the Hindus and a lot of my people employed overseas, if they are turned away from those countries and come to India, will you give them jobs? Are you willing to? No, you can't, because your track record on jobs is pathetic. You haven't been able to create jobs in the state or at the central level. You had promised 2 crore jobs, you've created zilch. That's your track record. And that is where I want to take this debate, because you have no business dividing the society more than you already have. It's polarizing, it's divisive. What are you doing to this country? Have you ever asked yourself that question? How far are you going to take this? How far are you going to take the hatred? Because the same hatred is going to come back and haunt you, sir. Realize that.
that
Realize that.
Sir, I'm coming back to you.
The same hatred is going
Hold
to come
your
and
peace.
haunt you for the rest of your
She is
existence.
going out of track. She is talking about something else and you are not stopping her.
Sir, I wasn't even
Let me
stopping
tell you
you.
one
Know
thing.
when you were speaking.
Don't tell me
Let's
where
go
I'm
one
going
by
to answer my
one.
questions.
1 second,
You are in
Mr. Upadhyay.
governance,
Okay, can
answer
we
the
all come
questions.
down? Let me just get back Mr. Upadhyay on the screen. Mr. Upadhyay, the fact is, it's convenient to say the people want it. It's convenient to say that the temple authorities want it. You're in governance. You have to implement it. Does government of Karnataka have a religion is what I want to ask you. Or you have to go unilaterally and see what violates the constitution and not implement it then.
First and the foremost point is many of those members of the temple committees there are Congress members also in the temple committee. This is point number one. Point number two, the law minister and the chief minister in the assembly, they were told if it comes to leasing of these land which belongs to the temple, as per the law, we have to support the temple authorities. Beyond the temple area, if the land is private property or any other property, Muslims can put their shop there. And if somebody refuses or bans such people, action will be taken against those people. This was very clearly mentioned in the assembly by Chief Minister as well as the law minister.
Can we just go one by one? Can I just get Mr. Upadhyay? Mr. Upadhyay, make your point. Make your point, sir.
I told you. Just now I told you.
Okay, you made your point.
You heard me what I...
Yes, sir, everyone has heard you. You were beaming this show out live. Everyone's hearing you. I want to go again once back to Arvind Narayan, the president of PUCL. Arvind Narayan, you just heard the BJP spokesperson and he said very clearly that they're just following the rule of law. They are only, but the temple authorities, you can call them bigoted if you want to. That's a moral debate. But when it comes down to the last word of law, and you're a lawyer yourself, if they say no Muslims allowed, no Muslims allowed.
I think the point again you referred to is 15.1 is about discrimination by the state. 15.2 is discrimination by any citizen as well. So we have what is called not just a vertical provision with respect to non-discrimination, but horizontal as well. So in our country, we take very seriously discrimination perpetrated by non-state actors as well. And in this case, so whether there's protestations of innocence don't ring very true. It's not the temple authorities which are doing this prohibition. The reports we have from the media coming across is really the Hindutva groups which are going and shutting out Muslim traders from temple after temple. And the role of this government, what this government has done ever since the entire question of what happened in Mangalore and the model policing issue, the church attacks issue, is the complete abdication of its constitutional responsibility. What they can't do directly, they do indirectly. Okay, fine, we can't discriminate as the government will allow our non-state actors to discriminate. And here again, the judgment to take in mind the Tehsin Pulawala judgment, the Supreme Court is very clear. As the government, it is your responsibility to ensure law and order. You can't throw up your hands and say a section, as Mr. Upadhyay put it, that it's about Hindu society and Hindu sentiments. I mean, we live in a constitutional democracy, and you can't make the point religion is more important than the constitution. That's not a government, that's not a position that the government can. You are the government. You're sworn to protect and defend the constitution of this country. And it's very interesting that Upadhyay went on and on about a rule. Did he for once mention the word constitution? Did he have one sense of his responsibilities as a person who's meant to uphold the values of the constitution? Not one word we heard from him.
All right,
Ask those who are questioning and abusing the judges who gave judgment against the hijab ban in college person. You please ask them. Ask them to follow the constitution. What else I can expect from an urban Naxal?
Why are you talking? Okay, 1 second.
From an urban Naxal in the disguise of
I will not allow these. No, I will not allow. 1 second. Mr. Upadhyay, apologize. On what basis? Apologize, sir. On what basis have you called a panelist on this debate in urban Naxal?
Everybody knows what
1 second. Mr. Upadhyay, sir, I want to ask you, sir, I am sorry, I am the moderator of this show and I ask you to apologize to a co-panelist. Do you have proof right now? Do you have proof to call him an urban Naxal? Do you have that proof? What is the proof that you've called a co-panelist from the show an urban Naxal?
People in Mangalore. What
sir,
did he say
I am asking you again.
About the party in the...
Mr. Upadhyay, sir, Mr. Upadhyay, I'm going to ask you very politely.
Does he have proof for that?
Mr. Upadhyay, you're my guest.
That indirectly we are supporting this group. Let him give the proof for that first.
Mr. Upadhyay, I'm going to ask you very politely. You are my guest. I honor your presence here. I want to ask you. I'm moderating this debate. I'm moderating this debate.
Absolutely. Let
Sir,
me tell
I'm
you.
sorry. These are grave allegations.
He made an allegation that we were behind this thing and party supporting the other groups in doing and forcing this rule to be brought into this temple. Does he have any proof for that? Let him prove that first.
You're misunderstanding my point. I'm saying as the government in power.
He said that first.
Sir, let him explain. You made a point. Mr. Upadhyay, please learn to listen, sir. You have made a charge. Do you want to hear what he said? Do you want to hear him now?
Now he may
hear him now, sir.
Explanation for that, but he meant that only.
What he meant is very different from what you said.
What did you mean by calling him names?
What he meant?
What did you
mean?
I did not call him names. Mr.
One second. Okay, I want to go. May I just go back to Mr. Narayan? Mr. Narayan, can I just get Mr. Narayan? Mr. Narayan, you were explaining with what you said. Please go ahead, sir. Make your point.
Simple point I'm making is what we have as per the judgment.
Can I just get Mr. Narayan, please?
The simple point I'm making is as per the judgment in Tehsin Poonawala's case, it is the responsibility of the state government to ensure law and order in the state. So, for example, if there's a group which says that we will discriminate against Muslim traders, it's the responsibility of the government to ensure that discrimination does not happen. Because they're sworn to uphold and defend the Constitution of India. That's my simple point.
All right. Okay, Mr. Upadhyay, where in which did you say that he was trying to indicate that you are actually assisting or putting pressure on people to go ahead with this law? Where in that?
What he meant is indirectly, wherever they are not able to do it, they are asking their people to do it and they are keeping quiet. That's what he meant.
I didn't hear that.
When he spoke about it.
What he meant indirectly. Okay, Mr. Upadhyay, what he meant indirectly is what you think he meant indirectly. But you have made a clear charge on this show where you've called one of my panelists, and I respect all three of you. You've called four of you rather. You've called one of my panelists an urban Naxal. I am sorry. If you have the proof, furnish it or extend an apology.
Absolutely not. Everybody knows it's an open secret. What is PUCL?
Sir, it's just, okay.
So, Mr. Upadhyay's information, if I can just clarify who PUCL is. PUCL is a human rights organization founded during the emergency, fighting the Congress regime. That's really where the PUCL's origins lie. And since that moment in time, I'll make one last point. The People's Union of Civil Liberties has been a petitioner in numerous cases both before the High Court and the Supreme Court. So as an authority which has a certain sense of respect in the larger public sphere, I don't think there are too many questions around that, which I guess...
All right, okay. Mr. Narayan, I apologize because if there's proof, Mr. Upadhyay is allowed to say what he is. He's refusing to apologize. I'm moderating the show. I extend that apology to you. Last final points, because I guess this debate is only going downhill there. Mr. Aslam, you've been rather patient. Go ahead, sir. Make your final point.
Well, let me tell you, today, the BJP is at the epitome of majoritarian polarization. Look at the chain of events which have happened. It started with the hijab, then it's gone down to the Muslim traders and the shopkeepers not allowed to do business. There's one more horrific thing which has happened in Karnataka, wherein some fringe elements are calling not to boycott the meat sold by Muslims. Boycott the meat sold by Muslims. You know, to what level of hatred are we getting into?
Okay. All right, okay, Mr.
Karnataka is known as Sarvajanangada Shantiya Tota, which means it's a land of peace and love.
Okay.
That is what is promoted in Karnataka.
All right, sir, I'm going to cut you short. Okay, may I just move on? Ms. Shrinate, final comments.
I just have one thing to say, Preeti. I think as the state, as a player in politics there, one has to understand where are you taking the state? How divisive can you be? And are we going to restore peace, law and order to a state like Karnataka, which is actually a global beacon of hope for us? Or are we actually going to go so deep into divisive politics and polarize the community so much that it may actually get out of control? And if there were counter reactions that are going to start coming from other places, other countries, what are we going to do? Our job is to create jobs. Our job is to create infrastructure, health, but instead what the Karnataka government is willing to do is polarize and act against the people and denying them their right to life and livelihood in the name of standing up for a religion that I practice, and you defy every tenet of that.
All right, Mr. Upadhyay, you're given the final piece. Go ahead, sir. Make your point.
Yeah, whatever the spokesperson of Congress told, I think it is meant for the government of Rajasthan, where every day a Dalit woman is raped, killed. I think there she has to talk to her chief minister there in Congress and see that rule of the land is followed there.
Is that all you have
is
to
a peaceful state, and it is very much peaceful here, and nothing is going to happen.
Sir, is that okay, Mr. Upadhyay?
All that you do is talk about another state.
Absolutely, there is no problem in Karnataka.
Mr. Upadhyay, once again, sir, because it's 3:1.
Problem at present in Karnataka.
Mr. Upadhyay, because it's 3:1, once again I'll extend you the privilege. Do you want to close in on the debate we're talking about?
I would only say that whatever is happening here is a post-hijab verdict. Whatever was the reaction from a society, the society is giving reaction to that. And the government is trying to pacify those people and bring the rule of the land and see that the society moves forward peacefully.
Sir, I don't know what society you're talking about, who this society is, because you can't club the entire society under one umbrella.
The society is a 7 crore Karnataka population.
Sir, how do you know the entire 7 crore is with you? But having said that, we're going to let this matter rest.
I did not say that the entire 7 crore
All right, okay, may I? It's okay. I appreciate, may I? Thank you. Thank you all 4 of you for joining us. We're going to just end it here before it gets uglier than what it already is.